What I need to do is get all these logs milled before the next batch of free logs is available. I also need to split this spalted log to make a couple of bowls, maybe even 4 small ones. But first, after putting in this floor and raising the track, I've noticed that the mill becomes a little difficult to roll, and now I see we've got wheels that don't touch. And I doubt the mill has changed. What I think is the track has changed. But either way, gotta get that fixed first thing. Well, second thing. Beautiful. Starting at the beginning of the track, that's the wheel that doesn't always roll. It took an amazingly long time to realize the problem was in the wheel, not in the track. It's a little stiff to pull. This problem did cause me to check the track for the first time in 8 months, and it was off a little bit. So I corrected that, but not to the problem. Just lift it a little. Slowly. No, it's not. Since it's that wheel only, always a little high. All of these wheels individually turning freely. What led me astray was that wheel turns freely, but only through about a quarter of a turn, maybe less. What I need to do first thing to do is check the track. It's supposed to be 26 outside to outside. We are 26, almost an eighth, 26 3/32. Six, 25, 15/16, 26, 25, 15/16. So it's a little bit short everywhere. I found my steel tape and measured everything again. The tape agreed with the folding rule. Good. I will check the manual specs, tolerances before I touch anything. So it says 26 inches or 660 millimeters. 660 millimeters. Appears to be within a half a millimeter of 26 inches. I think these are all close enough. 1 millimeter short. We're dealing with variations of a millimeter or less. So I'm going to check track for level. Hard to do with the machine on the track. I don't know how the hell. I'll check sideways levels first. The left side is 1 millimeter high throughout, except this end dead even. The other end, the right side, is maybe a millimeter high. Measured at each pair of feet. This is that much high. Wow, that's a couple millimeters. So is the left side high or is the right side low? We'll double check that other end. Here's the right side sags. Need to stretch a string to be sure. If I bring that one down half a millimeter and this one down a half a millimeter or maybe a full millimeter, that should straighten out that far track. I'm still going to run a string. The string says that from here to the other end, this side is low. Now, do I want to make these adjustments before I put the string on the other side? I think so. I don't think the string lies. Now this isn't long enough to go all the way across, and I had to put the string inboard a little bit to clear the wheels. This isn't long enough to go all the way through, but I can eyeball level close enough. So there, we're good. Just touching the string. Here, level, just almost touching the string. And it's that way throughout till you get to the other end. So, based on that, I'm going to start raising this track a little. First, I loosened and raised the hold-down nuts with the 2 feet that are near each other, and then raised the track by turning the nut below a quarter of a turn to see if that was enough. Another quarter turn. And that got it. I repeated the process to the end of the track. With the track level and tight, I rolled the mill from one end of the track to the other to check the track and to see if that had helped solve the problem. Same wheels off the ground much of the time. Check the other side with the string, then do a shake the mill down. The string says the left side is good. So now we have to loosen all the bolts, connecting the mill together, loosen everything, give it a good shake, run it back and forth a few times, tighten them down. With the track level, I concluded that the sawmill itself was for some reason out of square. Part of the initial setup procedure is, after it's on the track, loosen 16 bolts that hold the thing rigid, give it a good shake so it can settle its weight on all 4 wheels, and then tighten the bolts again. I forgot to film loosening the bolts, lucky you, and in rolling it back and forth, all 4 wheels would roll after I stood on the one that was usually in the air, or appeared to be in the air. Well, finally it rolls freely, consistently. But I had to loosen up all the bolts pretty much. Really shake this down, and I've done this before. And then I had to ride it, as you just saw, back and forth a couple of times. It's rolling much more smoothly, more like it's supposed to. Seems like it rolled more freely in the beginning. See how it goes. If I'm continue to be unhappy with the way it rolls, I will jack it up one side at a time and see how those wheels are turning. But right now I'm just going to retighten everything before I forget. That is, these four and those four, these four, and the four on the other side. The other thing I have to do is put holes in the floor at 5 different points. The short log stops work just fine with the floor, but the long ones stuck up too high in most situations, so I had to bore holes so they could drop to the ground. This would have been a lot easier if I'd have made these holes as I was installing the floor. One down. Okay, we can drop tall stops at all 5 positions. I believe it's time to get busy. Make some sawdust and make some boards. This was the first time I'd run the sawmill in more than a month. It started on the 3rd pull. It was like learning all over again. Well, it's been a long layoff, 6 weeks or so, long enough for me to forget how to do things. What I did wrong was, on that first cut, I raised this end so the top of this end of the log was the same height as the top end of the other log. Wait a minute, top end of the other log? No, top of the other end of this log. Should have split the difference. Didn't do that. That's why I end up with cutting way too much off this side, not enough off of this and that. Well, you screw up and you screw up. I pulled the cant back to reduce the overhang beyond the last log stop because I'm running without a clamp, and the saw blade will pull the cant sideways if there's too much overhang. I'm milling 1.5-inch boards, and there's 2 inches left. I have to take the extra 1/2 inch off the top because the saw blade will not go lower than 1 inch above the bunks. The mill still isn't rolling smoothly. It should coast all the way to the end with just a little shove, but I have to push it the entire distance. A lot of rod in that one. 9.5 overall. Nine. Am I going to raise that 1/4 inch? I don't think so. Getting a little nitpicky. That clamp just keeps driving in. Pretty rotten. I need at least one tall log stop to hold the cant vertical and square. Ran out of travel on the clamp. That's probably why so many of the old-style blade guide handles broke off.
Hey, by the blade guard yet again.
One edge of this last board is pretty punky, so I'll resaw it. Cranking the screw clamps is tedious and tiresome. but cam clamps are not an option for the HM122. I didn't get much more than that done the rest of the day. I'd spent so much time adjusting the track and trying to figure out what was wrong with that wheel. But I did end up with a nice 3.5 by 3.5 post, a replacement for one of the scruffier ones, in the pile of lumber for our deck extension. I believe that's the first time I've done that. I could be wrong. Even though I checked the tracks and leveled them up, fine-tuned them, got it where all the wheels were rolling, that wheel still sometimes does not roll. This machine is extremely difficult to roll at all. Those two wheels roll freely. Rolls freely. Oh, does not. Here is the problem. This wheel does not roll freely, which makes it very difficult to move the machine.
See that? It's stiffer than hell. The others are all good. It rotates that much, but that bearing is screwed. So it's nothing wrong with the tracks. I got a bad wheel. As long as I've got these perpetually clean, shiny blades, thanks to this, I've adopted Lumberjack's idea of putting a little bottle cap under the drip to catch the last couple of drips. You don't come out 2 days later and find a rust spot on your blade. Christmas came early. Once again, I sent an email to Woodland Mills on Monday evening, well past their closing time, and it was a holiday to boot. Tuesday morning, I got an email saying a new wheel was on the way. It's Friday afternoon, early. FedEx just dropped off a new wheel. Well, it is thoroughly wrapped. So, perfectly good wheel and spins freely the way it should. Excellent. So now we have to get this one off. Those bolts aren't as big as I thought they were. Don't need any of this. Boy, tight on the bolt end. A little sloppy on the nut end. See what happens if I just turn the nut. Everything turns. What a surprise. Let's return. Catches up with that. And then the gates are loosened. But before we go too far with that, we've got to jack up this the way I did before with some blocks of wood. Okay, we're up. Hope it stays up. We're going to do it this way, weren't we? Lock nut and washer. Bolt. A couple of spacers for in here. This might get interesting here. Yep, that slips right on there, but this won't slip right off. Gotta be careful how I do this, don't I? Oh, that'll work. But I need to get over some solid ground some solid wood. And there we are. Yeah, that bearing is locked up for whatever reason. And we got just a little corrosion on there. I don't know if it's just similar metals or what, but we'll hit it with a little PB blaster. All I have to do now is remember the correct order. Those wheels go skinny inboard, big outboard. Got these two standoffs from this. So we go through here. It spins. Can't get that off. We'll do it this way. Now, is this going to come down on the track? Problem solved. Thank you, Woodland Mills, for getting that out to me so quickly. That's how your mill should run. Give it a little push, and it keeps going. No idea what's wrong with that bearing. Could punch it out and find out, but I really don't care. I'm back in business.
There's just one more thing before I let you go.
There's one leak in my roof. One leak drips right here from right here. Yeah, I know I missed with that nail, but there's another one. But it looks like the water's coming down through there. That seems to be the center of this wet area. But it comes in here and it stopped when I cleaned leaves off the roof. Started again this last rain. So what I'm going to do is seal that batten all the way down. Maybe a couple of them. Water is getting under one of these two. I think we're done.